The vase hit the hardwood with sharp crack, scattering shards that gleamed like teeth in the flickering candlelight. My wife's face twisted, her lips curling as she stared down at the wreckage of my gift, a hand-carved wooden box I'd spent months creating, now splintered beyond repair. "I don't want handmade junk," she snapped, her voice slicing clean to the hush of our dining room. The words landed hard, like a punch to the gut. 5 years of marriage, and I'd never seen her eyes so cold, so utterly unfamiliar. The air smelled faintly of melting wax and something heavier, regret. Dinner sat untouched, growing cold on the table. I just stood there, hands still outstretched from where I'd been offering her the box. Now empty. Her heels clicked against the floor as she turned and strode toward the kitchen. The trash can lid slammed shut, the sound echoing like a gunshot. I wanted to shout, to ask why, but my throat closed around the words. Instead, I sank into a chair, staring at the mess of broken glass and wood. That box had cost me weeks of late nights in the garage, sanding until my fingertips ached, carefully carving her initials into the lid, each stroke a quiet act of devotion. She used to love my woodworking, didn't she? I could still hear her laugh, the soft, "You're so talented," she used to say, but that memory felt distant now, like it belonged to someone else's life. Her rejection stung in a way I couldn't quite name. Was it just a gift? Or me? The house was too still. The clock on the mantel ticked, each sound tapping against my nerves, stretching the silence until it became suffocating. I replayed her words in my head, dissecting them for meaning. Handmade junk. The insult was cruel enough, but it was the look she gave me, the disgust, the pity that hollowed me out. I tried to shake it off. Maybe she was just exhausted. The law firm had been running her ragged, endless hours, late-night messages from colleagues she never named. I'd convinced myself it was just work. After all, trust was what we built our life on. But doubt crept in, quiet, cold, persistent. The chair scraped the floor as I stood and walked to the kitchen. The trash can sat by the counter, lid slightly ajar. My hand hovered above it. Opening it felt like crossing a line I couldn't uncross, like admitting something had broken between us. I lifted the lid anyway. The box rested on top of a heap of coffee grounds and wilted lettuce. The carved lid was cracked but still readable. E+L, forever. My chest tightened. I reached toward it, then froze. Something else caught my eye, a crumpled receipt half buried under a banana peel. I pulled it free and smoothed it against the counter. A hotel, downtown, 2 nights ago, paid in cash. My heartbeat stumbled, thudding hard against my ribs. She'd told me she was working late that night, buried in case files. I'd even taken her coffee, but her office had been dark, her desk empty. She'd texted later, said she'd stepped out for a client meeting. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? Now the paper in my hand felt like fire, its corners biting into my skin. The date, the time, the payment, none of it fit. I tried to reason with myself. Maybe it was for work. Maybe someone else used the room. Maybe a friend. But those whispers of doubt grew sharper, slicing through every excuse. I shoved the receipt into my pocket and walked back to the dining room, my footsteps heavy. The shattered vase seemed to stare up at me, accusing. I needed answers, but confronting her felt like stepping onto a minefield. What if I was wrong? What if I wasn't? The thought made my stomach twist. I grabbed my phone, scrolling through our recent texts. Her messages had become short, clipped, distant replies to my long ones. Busy. Talk later. I hadn't noticed it before. Not really. But now each one felt like a brick in a wall she'd been quietly building between us. The front door creaked open. My pulse spiked. "Ellie," I called, my voice thinner than I intended. She appeared in the doorway, coat still on, blonde hair catching the light like a halo. For a moment, she looked like the woman I'd married, warm, familiar, mine. Then her gaze fell to the broken vase. Her lips pressed into a hard line. "I didn't mean to throw it," she said softly, almost remorseful. "I'm just tired, Luke. It's been a lot." I wanted to believe her. God, I did. But the receipt burned in my pocket, and her words rang hollow, like a performance. Tired, I echoed, stepping closer. Tired enough to call my work junk? Tired enough to... I stopped. The hotel's name stuck in my throat. I couldn't say it. Not yet. Her eyes flicked away. She crossed her arms, her voice sharp. I didn't mean it like that. You're overreacting. The irritation in her tone, that edge of condescension, was new. Or maybe I just never noticed it aimed at me before. Am I asked quietly. The air between us crackled, heavy with everything neither of us said. I wanted her to explain, to laugh it off, to make it make sense. But she just stood there, silent, her fingers twisting the hem of her coat. The next morning, I called in sick. Ellie left for work without a word, her coffee mug untouched on the counter. I waited until her car disappeared down the street before I opened her laptop. Guilt scraped at me, but I did it anyway. Her password hadn't changed since we started dating, Sunflower23. Her inbox was full of work threads, but one email stopped me cold. A dinner reservation confirmation 2 nights ago at a restaurant near that same hotel. Table for 2. No names. My hands trembled as I checked her calendar. The same night, the same time, marked client meeting. But that receipt gnawed at me, daring me to see the truth. I drove to the hotel. My pulse pounded. The lobby was sleek, marble floors, glass walls, the air too clean. The clerk, a young guy with bored eyes, barely looked up. Can you check a reservation? I asked, sliding the receipt across the counter. He frowned, typing lazily. Cash payment, no name. Could be anyone. Anyone using my wife's card. I snapped, then immediately regretted it. He studied me, then hesitated. Blonde woman, green eyes? I nodded. His expression shifted. Yeah, think I saw her. With some guy, tall, dark hair, suit. They look cozy. The word hit like a hammer. I stumbled outside. The city noise blurred into a dull roar. Cozy. I saw it. Her smile, his hand brushing hers. The look she once saved for me. The betrayal solidified, cold and absolute. I drove home gripping the receipt, so tightly it tore at the edges. That night, Ellie came home late. The dining room was dark. The vase still lay shattered across the floor. I sat at the table, the receipt spread in front of me. She froze when she saw it, her bag slipping from her shoulder. Luke, Who is he? My voice was calm, but inside, I was unraveling. Her face fell. For the first time, I saw guilt, raw, real guilt in her eyes. Not regret, not sorrow, just guilt. It's not what you think, she whispered, her voice cracking. But the lie collapsed before it finished leaving her mouth. Then what is it? I shouted, standing so fast a chair tipped behind me. A hotel, a dinner, a man you were cozy with? Tell me, Ellie. Tell me I'm wrong. She didn't. She sank onto the couch, hands covering her face. It was a mistake, she said finally, barely audible. A colleague. It just happened. The words cut deeper than any confession could. A mistake. As if that made it better. As if that erased the hours I'd spent carving her gift, the years I believed in us. I wanted to rage, to break something, but there was nothing left inside me. Just emptiness. The box. The vase. The receipt. All pieces of a life already gone. I walked to the door, hand on the knob. Happy anniversary, I said, voice hollow. Then I stepped out into the cold night, leaving her alone with the ruins of what we used to be. Behind me, the house stood silent,